Welcome to the second part of a 3-video series designed to help you and your financial advisor determine the best time for you to claim your Social Security benefits. Before we get started, we have a couple of disclosures. Now that you understand Social Security claiming basics, this next section will highlight situations where multiple benefits may be available to you.
Now that you understand the basics of the claiming decision, it's time to dive deeper into situations where multiple benefits may be available. Let's start with benefits available to married couples. You may have seen a break-even analysis that looks like this. If you claim early, you get a smaller benefit check. If you claim late, you'll get a larger check, but for a shorter period of time. So if you expect to live past the point where the lines cross, you should claim late, and if you expect to die prior to that point, you should claim early. Notice how the lines bend downward? That's because a relatively good break-even analysis accounts for the fact that you could invest the money or leave other funds invested if you claim early. This approach has drawbacks even for singles, but for married couples, it definitely should not be used. I'm sure you're asking, why doesn't break-even work for married couples? Well, the reason is because married couples have more election options. Think about this. In terms of whole year election options, each member of the household has 9 options, 62, 63, 64, etc. So for a married couple where each has those options, the combination of options is 81, and that's only looking at whole years, 62, 62, 63, 62, and on down the line. Since each member of the couple has an independent election decision and an independent lifespan, we really need to look at a break-even that looks more like this. Each axis represents a possible death age for that member of the couple. Where the dots are red, for example, 71 and 71, the household in total would be better off claiming early. And that's intuitive, right? For each combination where the dots are blue, the couple would be better off with the higher wage earner delaying. And for this particular couple, if either lives past age 81, the higher wage earner should delay. This type of break-even chart will be significantly different for each couple based on relative benefit amounts, claiming strategies, and age differences. Speaking of claiming strategies, it's important to be aware of all the benefits that may be available to you. The first category is retirement benefits. I've got that in green because that's the benefit that sticks out to most people on their green and white benefit statement from Social Security. I've got these next two in yellow because these benefits are not as well known and often may not be considered in your claiming strategy. If you're married, you may be able to access a spousal benefit, which can be up to 50% of your spouse or even ex-spouse's full retirement age benefit. And upon the first death, the survivor or even a divorced surviving spouse may be able to access a survivor's benefit, which is generally the higher of your own benefit or the benefit of the deceased. In short, good Social Security strategies look to make the most of all three benefits. Now, Social Security was created in a time when many wives stayed home to raise children. And that was a socially desirable situation, so the system was built to avoid penalizing a stay-at-home spouse. As a result, a spouse is entitled to the higher of his or her own benefit, or 50% of their spouse's full retirement age benefit. Now, to this day, spouses still receive the higher of the benefit on their own earnings record or 50% of the benefit on the spouse's earnings record if elected at full retirement age. And Social Security is also completely gender neutral, which means that although this benefit was originally intended for wives, in fact, it was called a wives benefit, it can be used by either spouse. So in this example, if John's primary insurance amount, in other words, his full retirement age benefit is $2,000, then Jane would be eligible for 1/2 of that when she reaches full retirement age. That's $1,000. Now, there are some substantial differences between spousal benefits and benefits on your own record. Spousal benefits are reduced on a faster schedule than benefits on your own earnings record if you elect early. For someone whose full retirement age is 66, claiming your own benefit at 62 will get you 75% of your full benefit. If you take a spousal benefit at age 62, you only get 70% of your full spousal benefit. Also, spousal benefits don't get delayed credits. Remember, for each year you delay past full retirement age, you get an additional 8% for each year of delay. That doesn't happen with a spousal benefit. Planning for the survivor benefit is critically important. At the death of the first member of a couple, the survivor generally receives the higher of his or her benefit or the benefit of the deceased. So if you're the higher wage earner, claiming early reduces not only your own benefit, but also the survivor benefit. The single most common mistake we see is this. A husband who is the higher wage earner and is also a few years older than the wife claims benefits early because he's not sure how long he'll live. If he claims at 62, he will have reduced his wife's survivor benefit by 17.5% relative to waiting to 66 and by 44% relative to waiting to age 70. Now keep in mind, 98% of survivor benefits are paid to women, and 80% of women survive their husbands on average for 14 years. That's a long time to have to live on a dramatically reduced benefit. Here's an example of a married couple born in 1949 and 1953. He was a high wage earner and she was a below average wage earner. This example assumes that he lives to 85 and she lives to 90. Claiming at age 62 would have netted this couple about $860,000. Claiming at age 62 would have netted this couple about $996,000. Good Social Security strategy would net him over $1 million. There's a big difference in how you take your benefits. In this case, Jane was filing at age 63 because that was her age when John reaches full retirement age. John files a restricted application for only spousal benefits. That means he says, I only want to take my spousal benefit based on Jane's earnings. That allows his own earnings record to continue to earn delayed retirement credits, continue to grow until age 70. Then at age 70, John switched to his own benefit, receiving $3,750 a month. The restricted application allowed John to collect $769 per month for 48 months while still getting all of the benefit of his own delay. That's over $36,000 he was able to collect by understanding how to use spousal benefits in he and Jane's overall strategy. And the balance of the value difference between claiming early and claiming late is due to retirement and especially survivor benefits. The technique we just mentioned as part of John and Jane's strategy is called a restricted application. That's only available to people who were born prior to January 2nd, 1954. And that's due to some changes that happened in 2015 with the Bipartisan Budget Act. So you might ask, what if I don't qualify for a restricted application? Is it still worth going to the effort to identify a Social Security strategy? Here's a case study for a couple who's a bit too young to use the old rules. Same 3-year age gap, and all the other assumptions are the same. If they file as soon as possible, the value to life expectancy would be about $953,000, but following a strategy would net them well over $1 million. In this case, there's still a $123,000 difference between claiming early versus following a claiming strategy. So what was the strategy? In this case, John would have delayed until 70 and Jane 68. Now, why 68 for Jane? There's a diminishing return on the delay of the lower wage earner's benefit, as it's only going to be paid for as long as both members of the couple are alive. So if there's one benefit in the household that can make sense to claim early, it's the lower wage earner's benefit. Which brings us to another common question. What if you need some cash flow from Social Security to come in sooner? Perhaps you have liquidity challenges, or you're concerned about the health of one member of the couple. If you need cash flow sooner, it can often make sense to do what we might call a split strategy, in which one member of the household claims early and one claims late. In this case, the split strategy captures much of the value of the suggested strategy we discussed initially, but gets some cash flow started to the household sooner. What was the split strategy we used? The higher wage earner still delays, but the lower wage earner claims early. This strategy still ensures that the surviving member of the couple receives the highest possible survivor benefit, but it also gets cash flow flowing into the household sooner, potentially reducing the strain on other assets. As you can see, there are a variety of options to consider, and which will be ideal for your situation can vary significantly. Now, spousal benefits aren't just available to people who are currently married. They're also available to divorced spouses. To qualify, you'd have to have been married for 10 plus years, not currently married, and the benefit amount you'd receive works the same way a spousal benefit works. Your ex can actually be remarried, but in order for you to qualify for this benefit, you must not be remarried. The main difference when filing for divorce spousal benefits is if you were divorced less than 2 years, you'd have to wait until your ex files in order for you to receive a benefit. But if you've been divorced for at least 2 years, you're considered independently entitled, which means you can file whether or not your ex has filed. Your ex does at least have to be of eligibility age. Filing for divorce benefits is a little bit different than if you are married because of the ability to cross-claim. In other words, for people born before January 2nd of 1954, each member of the household could simultaneously claim spousal benefits on each other's record while delaying their own retirement benefits until age 70. Of course, for younger individuals, those options are no longer available. The biggest challenge in planning for divorce benefits is you may not know when the ex will file, and it may have an impact on you. So what you may want to consider is a best and worst case scenario. If your ex files late, will that create a survivor benefit for you or not? If your ex files early, whose survivor benefit will you count on? If your ex files early, will that benefit be greater than your own benefit such that you should pay attention in case a survivor benefit later becomes available? Now, your election of a divorced spouse or a surviving divorced spouse benefit will not be affected by their current spouse or any dependents, and they will not know about it either unless you tell them. Now, let's touch on a few considerations for widows and widowers. In order to qualify for widow benefits, you must be widowed. You must be at least 60 years old and unmarried unless you remarried after age 60, in which case they disregard the marriage. And you have to have been married to the deceased for a minimum of 9 months prior to death. Now, widow planning can be particularly tricky because it's based not just on when you file, it's also based on when the deceased filed. The reductions for claiming early for widow benefits follow a straight line. It's not a complex formula like for retirement or spousal benefits. It's just 28.5% is the maximum reduction, and that's divided by the number of months between initial eligibility up to widow's full retirement age. So here's the example. If age 60 is the minimum claiming age, then you'd receive 71.5% of the primary insurance amount by claiming at age 60. Now, what's unique about widow planning is you can actually claim a widow benefit, or you can restrict your application to a widow benefit at any age. In other words, as soon as you turn 60, you could be eligible for a widow benefit, and you could take only your widow benefit until you reach your full retirement age or later, maybe age 70, and then switch over to your retirement benefit, which would have grown by 76 to 77% in that time. The other option is that you could claim a retirement benefit as soon as you're eligible, and then later switch to a widow benefit. Let's go through a couple of examples. So we've got John, who never elected and died at age 65. His benefit at age 66 would have been $2,000. Now, Jane is 5 years younger, so she's 60 now, and her own benefit on her own earnings record at 62 would be $1,200. So what should she do? If she were to file without thinking, file for widow benefits at age 60, she would receive $1,430 per month. So the total benefit she would receive through age 85 is $429,000. An alternate strategy might have her file for only her widow benefit at age 60. She'd get that $1,430 per month, and she'd switch to her own retirement benefit with delayed retirement credits all the way out at age 70. That's $1,980 per month. So under that strategy, she'd receive $528,000. A second strategy might have her file for only her retirement benefit at age 62 and then switch to her widow benefit at age 66. That would net a lifetime value of $513,000 through age 85. Either strategy 1 or strategy 2 is far better for Jane than filing without thinking. In the real world, were Jane to file at age 60, she'd get her $1,430 per month. But then when she turned 65, she'd go in and she'd file for Medicare. And the helpful Social Security people would help her realize that she could switch to her retirement benefit and get a little raise. Few bucks a month. In fact, it would offset part of her Medicare premium. And so more than likely, she'd be switched over to her retirement benefit and forfeit the opportunity to pursue strategy number 1. Now, a surviving divorced spouse can actually collect the same widow benefit and has the same benefit structure as a surviving spouse. So let's wrap up. There are a variety of considerations for situations where you may have multiple benefits. If you're married, remember that a basic break-even analysis just doesn't work for couples. And the key to maximizing household benefits is really understanding the future impact of survivor benefits. It also makes sense to identify any spousal benefits that may be available, and if cash flow is necessary sooner, consider a split strategy. For people who are divorced, you want to make sure you identify any possible spousal or survivor benefits. And for people who are widowed, you definitely want to coordinate the timing of retirement and widow benefits. In the next video, we'll discuss incorporating your optimized Social Security strategy into your overall retirement income streams.